So, good afternoon, this is Angela Winston calling to order the special meeting of the CRC Charter Revision Commission Group 1 on Wednesday, January the 28th at 4:28 p.m. And currently there is nobody else on the call, but we may be joined by some. So shall I just go around the room? We take the roll. So Angela Jameson is here.
Crystal Grace
Yeah.
here.
Steve Case is here.
Joe Paulo is here.
Kevin Corbett here.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have our agenda. So the first is to item after calling the roll and calling to order is to review the draft minutes from our meeting on January the 21st.
Should I have brought copies for everyone at the house? No.
Was that the electron?
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got them in
I believe I signed off on
Yes, I think you did. But I think we're supposed to sign out in the
meeting.
Yes, so-
it. We have to vote on
Yeah, I'll have to vote on it. So I had a few sort of typos really, but
Sure.
quite a few. Dr. Lutzi, you don't spell his name
It's easy, yeah.
L-U-I-Z-Z-I.
It's unusual.
Nice.
You started a sentence, this is the second paragraph that starts, Mr. Hogan started. And there's a sentence that says, it takes significant experience running for office. Did you mean experience
No.
or significant? I don't know.
Let me get, it takes significant, not experience, it was significant expenses, or I'll come up with I need to say the word now.
Yeah.
It takes significant resources to run.
Perseverance, yeah, resources, yeah.
To run for office, okay?
And then the next sentence, I think you just left out. The sentence starts once on the Board of Ed. Indicated that they were proponents of having a 9-member BOE.
Okay, indicated. Once on the Board of Ed, there's a significant learning curve. Mr. Hogan and his other board members indicated they were proponents of having a 9.
Yeah.
They are proponents of having a 9-member Board of Education.
And then the next sentence, over 9 people could be too many to work closely together for consensus. Maybe to reach, be too many to
reach consensus.
Yeah.
Sorry about this, guys.
That's okay.
You could probably run this through autocorrect.
Yeah.
That's spell check.
Yeah.
And then the next paragraph, second sentence, Mr. Hogan suggested board members become more valuable, I think, rather than valuable every year.
Yeah.
And then in the next paragraph, I think we should refer to Lutzi as Dr. Lutzi.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next paragraph, halfway through, Commissioner Labrie, I think there's something missing there. Commissioner Labrie said that state statute requires BOE budget.
I think it was just. You can either.
You would need point.
You
Yeah.
can just put a colon. And that would then indicate that that's what I was.
Stated state statute. Requires BOE budget to act as a block grant, okay.
And then a little bit further down again, Commissioner Labrie said all budgets need to be looked at together.
Okay.
And then there's another paragraph, it's the fourth from the bottom that starts. Anything else to enhance?
Yeah.
Term limits for chair, prohibitive, questionable. I wasn't quite sure what we were saying there.
Mr. Hogan, actually, he said he was generally in favor of I remember him saying he was generally in favor of term limits. But for the Board of Education, he was not. Except for the chair.
Right, just, I think that just needs to be
Okay.
rephrased.
Term limits for chair are questionable. Why don't I say that? Term limits for chair are questionable. Longer term.
I don't think that's what he said, though.
He did?
I thought he said term limits for the chair, meaning I can't be the chair forever.
Yeah. Okay.
He got that, but not for those who are,
Yeah, I think you were saying, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe if you want to have term limits, then you
Yeah.
could put them on the chair, but that's an ordinance thing, that's a
bylaw.
bylaws thing, that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's for 2 years, and I think the reason
Yeah.
for that is because the balance
Their
on Board of Ed with the elections could change.
Yeah.
So you could have one party that had
Exactly.
majority,
So
and then it switches at the next election.
Yeah, in looking at these minutes, I just wonder if they're too detailed. Minutes as a rule are very general. And they're for a number of reasons, but one, they're just there to record what was discussed. Like we discussed,
generically,
we discussed term limits or we discussed this and that. Very broad, then if you have a vote on something, you have to be very specific. This was the motion, this was who made it, there's a second, there's everybody voted. So there are certain things in minutes that are just peculiar to minutes, minute taking.
But, Steve has put time and effort.
No, there's no need for this.
Yeah, I mean,
The
it's
job
not
is going-
the best of this.
It's to be more compact.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, and then the next paragraph.
So maybe as a suggestion on that one point, that your third sentence, term limits for chair are prohibitive questionable, just take that out because the following sentence, longer term for chair than currently provided. Is that meaning longer term for the chair to serve? Or what was that point he was making?
We might write that paragraph, so Mr. Hogan discussed term limits as they apply to the chair. However, this being a subject of their bylaws is not significant for our Scott, whatever else he said is irrelevant to.
Not within the scope of the
Yeah,
charter.
not within the scope, so
But it could be,
there's no reason for the charter to go in and say something which is done in the bylaws of the organization.
well, anyway, I mean, he said what he said, but I think he was generally thought that term limits weren't necessary on the
Yeah.
Board of Ed. And everybody spoke very favourably of the institutional knowledge that Penny Ration brought to the table, noting that she'd served for 18 years. And Hazel Holt served even more than that probably in the past. So I think his point was simply that it was only the chair of the Board of Ed that was subject to term limits, and that is specified in the bylaws.
Okay.
That was my takeaway.
Yeah.
So, anything else? Mr. Hogan discussed term limits as they apply to the chair. He felt term limits were generally not applicable, except for the chair. CRC members suggested this is part of the BOE bylaws, not the town charter.
Yeah, that's
That's good.
Okay.
The next paragraph, second sentence. A few strong options exist. This is in relation to mechanisms for unaffiliated to be on the Board of Ed. I think that should read few options exist, Cause I mean, there was discussion of how hard it is.
Few options
Exist,
exist,
yeah.
period, yes.
And then the second to last sentence, here I'm being picky, says Hardware Independent to run. It's unaffiliated. There is an independent party, which is a political party, and there are members of it. So if you say I'm an independent, really what you're saying is you're a member of that party.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there's just a typo in the next line. Commissioner Corbett existed.
I do exist.
Do-
And she's ready today to prove it. Reaffirm it.
You'd be sure.
That's true.
I've done a crappy job, so.
No.
Good first effort,
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm afraid I got just a couple of others.
No, that's fine.
And that's under number 6. So
Okay.
the second paragraph. Second sentence, in prior town council decisions, loosening of the requirement for committee members to be New Canaan electors was TDAC. I think that it's always been the case that committee members don't have to be electors in New Canaan, but I think TDAC was specifically made a committee so that it could include people who own businesses in town, but not necessarily a resident here.
So just strike that whole sentence.
I would.
Okay.
Yeah. And then any other business, I would just call Joe Commissioner Palo, because everybody else is being referred to formally,
Yes,
and I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
and the question to me is,
We're just referring to the minutes here. It says at the next meeting, Joe will provide.
Yeah, Joe,
Changing it to
oh,
Commissioner.
I see, yes,
And then I think
that is true.
adjournment, it was a unanimous vote rather than anonymous vote.
yes,
And that would probably autofill for you.
okay,
Okay.
thank you for your.
Well, I'm sorry, but
No, thank you for your.
and I'm sorry we
attention
should
to
do
detail.
this, in discussion, but there we go. Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as revised?
So motion.
Second, as revised.
As regards.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay.
So the next item we have is our theme-based discussion of appointed boards and commissions. So we last looked at this a couple of weeks ago now, and we had started to go through the draft that I put together.
May I make a preliminary comment, because I think my comment will expedite the process. And you're exactly right, we last really met on this about 2 weeks ago. And at that time, as we were working through the meeting, we were on our way, in my opinion, to an agreement. I think we were pretty close to getting there, but for whatever reason, we stopped. Since that time, I think there have been 2 external events, which I'll highlight, which I believe have eclipsed where we are with this document. So I see the document as having age, and frankly, if you want to proceed with the document, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I would say that I would reserve the right to submit a separate one because of these 2 events, which I think are very significant and have really changed the scope of the discussion, and I think somewhat the quality of the discussion. And the 2 events are, we received a great deal of information from P&Z last week. They had 6 presenters, 2 outside letters, their own group letter, and a bunch of pages of information they submitted. It was really very, very detailed. And I think it expanded the scope of some of the things that we have in the document and deepened the discussion in terms of specifics. And frankly, the document that we have doesn't touch on many of those things. So from a standpoint of scope and depth, I think our document has just aged out. Had we presented it 2 weeks ago, I think it would have had some meaning, but I think it's simply been eclipsed by that discussion. The other one, which was a little unpleasant, but I have to bring it up, is I assumed or hope you've read the Canaanite of the last few days. And there's some statements in there from our first selectman, which I find troubling. If there's a better word, but our first selectman basically moved beyond the discussion of appointed versus elected and actually brought up the subject of what should be presented to the voters or not be presented to the voters. And specifically, she said she thinks it's unwise to put the question to the voters. What voter isn't going to say, I want an elected board? There are certain things that in reality should not be elected in this town. Now, I really feel that has significantly changed the tone unnecessarily of the discussion where we've been working, impartially, but there are people who, in one case an employee, in some cases people that report to her, and for those reasons, I don't feel comfortable participating in the document that, as I said, we were almost ready to agree on. So I'd like, as I said early on, I reserve the right to submit a separate report. That's what I'd like to do. So if you want to go ahead with the document, you can X out my comments and just proceed.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the situation in relation to the first selectman. She said those things actually when she was interviewed.
Yes, I read back and I actually saw them.
And she was asked to provide her point of view.
Yeah.
And what it is just her point of view.
Right.
We're all welcome to say, yes, I agree, or to say, no, I vehemently disagree with what she said.
Yeah.
So I don't actually see why her having said that means that we need to produce a different kind of document.
Can I answer your question? I'm sorry, do you want to?
No, I was gonna say I agree. I think that that's her testimony.
Right.
That's her opinion that she gave in an open forum.
Yeah,
But
that's
we
true.
are an open forum and we can discuss this also.
But we have, I think, 3, perhaps 4 people that are direct reports to her in various ways. And sending a message to what she sees as the end game of no one, to my knowledge, in any context, has discussed putting anything to the voters. None of the presenters, none of the challenging questions, none of the documents that have been presented. The voters have, what would be presented to the voters, which would ultimately be important consideration for us to recommend to the town council and then to decide. The fact that she's gone all the way to send the message to people who are direct subordinates, I felt it was undue influence.
Which direct subordinates is she sending a message?
Well, we have one commissioner who's an employee.
Russ.
Okay.
So how does that impact him?
He is the subordinate to the first. I mean, she's saying there are certain things that really should not be elected. It's really not wise to put this to the voters. Very hard for a subordinate to be independent when his or her boss is sending that kind of a message.
Well,
And I think
that you say it.
in substance and perception, yes, I say that. That's exactly.
Nobody else necessarily agrees.
You don't have to agree. That's right. And based on that, the action that I'm taking is to say that I think the paper you want to produce, you should go ahead. I will produce a separate paper. That's all.
Why is your paper different from what you've been working on together as a group?
Well, going back to the first point, which is I said that the significant information that we got from P&Z in probably a dozen pages of their presentation that they submitted, plus their letter, plus 2 letters that were submitted from outside, plus about an hour of presentation by 6 people, I think has expanded the scope and deepened the depth. And I think those are positive things, not negative. But I think because of that expansion of the scope, the letter, the paper we were producing wasn't as wide. I had advocated for an hour of paper. We went wider to discuss it, and I think P&Z went even wider. And so I think the paper has been eclipsed. That's essentially my
It
point.
could be amended.
I think well, then that takes you back to a tremendous amount of detail that would have to be amended, and I think the amending process in a lot of terms of the accusations that they made, we've struggled to find middle ground here. And I think we were successful in a number of areas. We got about halfway through. But now, at this point, with the combination of the first selectman's comments and the expanded scope, I see that as being extremely difficult.
But again, you know, the comments that we receive from members of P and Z, it's like the comments we receive from the first selectman, the board of selectmen. We ask them, the public, we ask
Different
them.
comments. I'm not saying that, I'm saying they're good comments.
But that's part of the process.
That is.
What we've been tasked with doing is to take a broad theme and come up with some input that might be useful to individual commission members as they think through, should this body be elected or appointed? And we specifically
I agree.
agreed that we were going to try and produce a neutral paper that didn't take one side or the other.
I agree, except that I looked at our requirement, which was that we were tasked with analyzing and reporting, but it didn't say we had to have a unified report in the this document, if I may refer to what I was looking for. May I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Joe, do you just want to submit a separate? Yeah.
Yes, I'm uncomfortable in the joint paper. I felt I made a number of compromises to get to harmony in the joint paper, perhaps you did as well. And I feel now with the expanded, very significant expanded scope as presented by C&Z and sort of the perception that the first selectman has thrown in within her prerogative to speak. I'm not saying it wasn't within her prerogative, but I'm saying having said that, it does send a message, I think, to people. And therefore, I would prefer to submit a paper independent without criticism of your paper. And then we would have two, because there is no limitation here. It says reviewers, researchers, elected versus appointed, group one. So it was, I think, a good goal. And I believe we would have gotten there had we stayed with it 2 weeks ago, because we were moving. We chose to adjourn.
Well, if we got an eclipse 2 weeks ago, then what we're writing was probably not very important.
That probably would have been the case, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, we would have, 2 weeks ago,
You know,
the document was truer, I think,
Are
than
we
it is today.
required to actually produce a paper?
No,
No.
it was left entirely to us as to how to proceed.
You know, my view on this is very simple in this elected versus appointed. It's two things. First, do no harm. Second, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You have different views. You wanna write a position paper?
Only if we either write papers or we don't write papers. So if it's the agreement of the group not to write a paper, I will adhere to that.
Okay, I think the rest of the commission, the other, how many are we, 11? So the other 7 people are all thinking about this, right? And they're getting all this input, right? And they're hearing all this testimony. And people's minds are moving along and what guideline? I mean, the guideline would have been, what guideline could you give? You give somebody a guideline, they say it's guideline. And then they hear
Oops, sorry.
a dozen other comments, and they say, well, this guideline is no longer, it's been superseded. And so let us listen to the actual facts, so maybe we do nothing.
I will, if it is,
Not my meeting.
if it is the decision of the group to do nothing, then I will join in doing nothing and I will not submit a paper. Okay? But if the group would like to proceed with the paper that's on the table, then I'd like to proceed with that. So there's 2 options,
Just 2 options.
and I think I'm being fair.
Thank you. I've not seen the draft of the document you referred to, but this particular topic has been widely discussed with PNC, with Board of Finance, with other. I think Group 2 was looking at it as well from a different context in terms of treasurer and town clerk. So it's obviously a very important topic and it's worth discussing. I'm going to ask you this. Do you think we've come far enough in terms of information that we received from appointed boards, elected boards, 'cause we haven't heard from town council yet, and I want to give them the opportunity to do that. Is there anything else that we want to hear from to then have a discussion, and I want to use perhaps February 17th or the very next full commission meeting to begin to have that dialogue. Where do we want to go? I don't want to drag it on till May 4th. I want to have a conversation because I don't know that there's anything more other than comments from town council.
Maybe, I don't know how many.
Well, I
finance
was-
people you've interviewed, but there's some more input. from
A
them.
couple have reached out to me directly, but
And they're being
No.
interviewed, they're being set up,
I have-
or they've put input.
they've just given input. They're gonna put it, I asked them to put it from right
Okay,
because they
good,
didn't,
good.
yeah.
So,
Can I just say, maybe we ought to hear from the town treasurer and the town clerk.
Sure,
Fine.
I would, absolutely, and
Yeah.
they're not scheduled, I don't know when.
17.
she's a 17.
Oh, she is, okay,
I penciled it.
okay, and I believe the town treasurer is March 3rd. I just spoke
Okay.
with him today.
Yes.
He can't come before March
He
3rd.
can, but somebody told him that we didn't have any room, I told him I'd like to get him earlier.
Yeah, he should be in.
So we'll get him if we can, if not. Next Tuesday, then.
It's important, and here's why it's important. If the commission decides that it wants more elected officials, it's going to have to rewrite the charter in significant ways. And provide for elections and provide for the transition from appointed to elected.
I
And
understand.
that's gonna be a lot of drafting, so the sooner, that cat's out of the bag,
Right,
the better.
and again. Before that drafting happens and some of it's just the theme, do we wanna go forward or do we wanna leave it as is? Going forward, and to your point, what would take in terms of changing editing
Charter.
the charter and that would take a considerable amount of time, even beyond maybe the May 4th report. So I think first, let's have the discussion. Is it going to be appointed? Is it going to be elected? Let's have a discussion. If it's gonna remain as is, there's no reason to go before the electorate, in my personal opinion.
Well, last time around, not everything of the charter went before, there were one or two.
And if it wasn't changed, it didn't go before the electorate.
Well, there's two additional points. The first is that we have the survey. And the survey will be growing and we'll have additional information because up until this point, in the last charter review, I think there were 82 people that were members of town government and 4 residents. That was the only representation the residents had. 4 people were quoted in the list. Now we have the survey and we're going to get some number, whatever that is. And that then, I believe, should go on the scale along with the other information that we have. I don't know if we're gonna have another 4 people or 400. I have no way, no. So we will see that together. The second point is there's another possibility which needs to be considered, which is that it may not be our job completely to referee should something be appointed or elected, as opposed to saying there's enough information on both sides, let the voters decide. So there's a difference between us packing it up and saying, we believe it used to be appointed, now it should be elected. Or as opposed to saying, I believe, Catherine was nice enough to send me the charter from 1935. And from what I can tell, the issue that we're discussing has never been voted on at this point. There's never been a time where these committees were voted. Which way do you want them, from what I can see? So what I'm saying is perhaps our charge should be having raised information on both sides to say there's enough here that the voters should decide, not 11 people in a room. That's all.
Well, we are charged with
Well,
making
we-
recommendations.
Well, that's why we get back to my friend.
We make recommendations and the town council is voted by the public.
Right.
Has the right to say,
Put it to the.
Yes. Right,
we're not gonna put it to the voters, we like it the way it
yeah,
is.
and if they do, then that's the end of the story. And the first selectman has gone further than the debate of elected versus appointed and actually gone to talking about the voters. And
Yeah,
that's
but
what
she
it said.
brings up, yeah, but her point is valid.
I didn't say it wasn't, I just say that the impact of that valid point, there's a lot of valid points.
What's difficult is to bring a theoretical question before the voters and expect them to be either up to speed or come up to speed in a general election to understand the nuance of what they're voting
Why
on.
would it be theoretical? I don't understand what you mean.
Well, if you say, should. Depends how, it depends.
Planning and zoning.
Yeah, it's like you get at the,
Yeah, that's
I
how you
understand.
phrase the proposition, but let's say we don't play any games, the proposition is straightforward.
Correct.
And it says, in general, do you prefer elected officials or appointed officials? That's the bottom line of the,
That would never be on the ballot.
No.
It would be,
Uh,
do you approve, do you?
yeah, do you?
That's it. They just
But it would be
on the yes or
by
no.
department, P and
It's
Z,
not binary.
it would be
Yeah.
I
by,
don't know, because that goes beyond the scope of elected versus official, because that's, you've already made a decision with respect to those two boards,
okay, so you.
which is not necessarily. You'll have
You're
to
right.
see what that comes out of this.
No, you're
commission.
right.
If it
So
doesn't,
you-
it doesn't go to the public.
Okay, now you realize that the pro and the con of what you're proposing, because if what you're proposing actually goes to elected, then all the boards become elected. I was suggesting it would be more a la carte, but if you go that way, I wouldn't oppose that. I mean,
There was a question that I had asked the attorneys as to whether you could do mixed elected and appointed also.
I got a response on that. You're gonna hear on Tuesday, but I can give you a short synopsis. So you had inquired,
Yeah.
us inquired, with Birch and Moses, and they've taken it further. They've done their own research. They've also consulted with Steve Mednick, who's a CRC, attorney, and two others, I believe, and you'll hear that directly from Attorney Belmonte. There is no case where, under
There's
state
both.
statutes, there's both. There's not. The state statutes themselves don't prohibit it.
Okay.
But they also don't lay out how it should work if you did. So they're very specific about elected boards and commissions, very specific about appointed. There's no comment about what if you brought them together. So what would that say theoretically involve? Well, there's a lot of, it would be very complex and
Yeah.
maybe even a legislative change would have to be made, which is, you come back to when you think about you're elected, I'm appointed, we're on the same board, how does that work? It's how you can consider minority representation, how do you consider alternates? How do you work the complexity? There's a reason why people probably don't do that, is that the complexity, and at the end of the day, what's the value in doing that? And so it doesn't exist anywhere else. Is it prohibited by state statutes? No, it's silent. And then the question becomes, what's the ultimate value? It's a lot of complexity, what's the ultimate value of having a
Well, the value-
commission that has a mix, and how do they work with each other? How do they make decisions? You know, well, you might be influenced by the electorate.
I mean, I could make an argument for the value of giving broader very, very broad electoral representation.
Well,
And-
then you would recommend going completely all elected.
Right, well, but I don't, I'm very swayed by the argument that New Canaan does not have. I mean, a lot of people, including me in the securities industry, may not be able or desire to want to run for office, so.
So you'd say, I'm interested in being on such and such board, but you have to be in the slot that is appointed.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about the complexity of that. It's hard enough, but it's just all 100% appointed or even 100%
Yeah,
elected.
and then you could see that, elected guys would really have an outfit.
Yeah.
Because they say, all you have to do is say, oh, I'm a securities analyst, I can't run, but I really want to be on this board. So please put me in, oh, you're a smart guy, you're on the board. The other guy was on, spends $20,000, 6 months of his or her life, and ruins their marriage and gets elected by 3 votes.
Right.
And then has to show up again in
There's no doubt.
2 years.
Is there, I have,
It's very
I have served on both
Yeah.
appointed and elected boards because I'm not a different person, whether I'm an elected or an appointed person.
Sure.
I have not.
Yeah, you served in both functions.
Both functions. I'm not afraid to.
In fact, you were appointed selectman.
And then ran for.
Did a good job.
Let's not be judgmental, but the point is that it's adding complexity that this
I got it.
doesn't need.
Doesn't need it.
I think
What's great about our little charter in our little town is that it's simple. And this little town works well.
Yeah.
You know, and we keep our taxes low, we got the great schools, great public places.
I do.
We appreciate the question.
Yeah, and I hear the squeaky wheel that isn't gonna make it through the system that's primarily appointed. And wanna give that squeaky wheel a voice, but they could run, they could try to get appointed, and maybe then the solution is make it easier for getting people
I
appointed.
think so.
Now we're talking.
I think so. For example,
Yes.
Wilton, it is the Board of Selectmen, 5 of them, that makes a decision on appointments to appointed boards and commissions. They interview the candidates, and they do that in executive session, but then they vote in Parliament. And it seems to me that would give a better chance to everyone to serve on the appointed board. And in addition, if we were to have a lower ceiling on maximum party political representation, there could be more space for everybody, but particularly unaffiliated. So at the moment, it's roughly 2/3. Sorry, can I just finish? At the moment, it's roughly 2/3. Okay, so no member, there may not be more members from a political party than 2/3 of the total number of members. But other towns like Weston and Fairfield, they actually specify that there may not be more than a bare majority. So whoever is the dominant party at a point in time in New Canaan still has a majority on an appointed board, but there is more room for other political parties and for the unaffiliated who now outnumber the registered voters alike.
That's been in
And the unaffiliated would be able to come on because they would come through the selection process.
Yeah,
By putting their hands up as opposed to currying favor with parties.
right, I mean,
Can I address this unaffiliated issue? I sent this out on the unaffiliated, you remember getting it, I'm happy to hand it out.
I did.
no,
It's a little research, I think it's really worth.
Did you
Reading
send
with
it?
the way, did you get?
Yeah, but we got this, this is about,
I
this is what's called the petitioning candidate.
Petitioning
Let me tell you
candidate.
just how difficult that is. There's only been one that I can remember, who tried to run for a significant office in town as a petitioning candidate. And that,
But allow me to present this, because I think it may change your knowledge base. According to what's required, 1% of the total votes cast from the previous election. Roughly, I seem to recall that the town clerk and the town treasurer each got about 4,200 votes. So if I was unaffiliated, total voters voted for the town clerk, 4,200.
no, it's not the office of the town clerk.
No.
It's the total voters
No.
of that particular election.
No, the total voters for that specific office. Not for that specific election, for that specific office. Is what,
That's correct.
that's correct.
Specific office.
Office, so we call it 5,000. Okay, so let's say 5,000 people voted for the town clerk. I now want to be the town clerk. I need 50 signatures. I can get 50 signatures. It's not I don't consider it right. So it's not a hard process. And to give you an example, we have a case this year with Kim Norton, who ran as a petition candidate and won, and didn't have a campaign, basically, so self-finance. It wasn't a big deal. So the reason I bring this up is because we've talked about the unaffiliated voters, and the unaffiliated voters are to some extent disadvantaged by the appointment process because they're not in with either the DTC or the RTC. So these are the ways in which the state allows, and as I read the background on this, the state's position is it wants to encourage people to have opportunities to run. It doesn't want to have restrictions. So I provided this by email, but I'm happy to give it again, to just say, the unaffiliateds have a tougher road than if you're in a party like the DTC or the RTC, but it's not that hard, because any one of us could get 50 votes.
Ms. Corbett?
Thank you, Joe, and that's for elected positions, but I think.
That's correct.
Right,
Right.
so I think what, part of the conversation is also about appointed positions.
It wasn't something.
Right, I understand, and how do we ensure that the current process under which we appoint individuals to Board of Finance, P and Z, Parks and Rec, et cetera, what's that process? And as you said, Fairfield has a very specific process, other towns do as well. And I think if we were to make some suggestions, and by the way, the Charter Revision Commission in its report, we can make a suggestion that has nothing to do with making a change to the charter, but in fact is a recommendation perhaps to create an ordinance. And I'll give you an example of that. I don't think we have to use the charter to be a guide for how the Board of Selectmen should welcome individuals who want to participate in the process as an appointed process. Each of us is I thought it was very well done. I give credit to the town council for thinking about this. Each of us who wanted to participate and be considered to serve as a commissioner, had to send in our CV. We filled out a questionnaire. We had to submit it by a certain time. Then it was reviewed. Then we were selected. And the number of people that did submit, it was a certain number, and then 11 came out of that discussion. That was a great example of how it should be done. That doesn't need to be put into the charter, but it should be as a best practice, or even putting this in an ordinance. Anybody wishing to, any seat that's going to be filled, we're going to follow this process.
Mm.
And that process would be right now, if a seat is opened up in the audit committee, as an example, audit board or audit commission, there's a seat to open up. How do we notify people that that's available? Unaffiliated, Democrats, Republicans, and give everybody a timeline. If you're interested in this, please submit online. Please give us your CV, your background, why you should be interested. And right now, there is a roadblock. If somebody wants to, is unaffiliated or any party, and it has to go for the first selectman before it gets to the Board of Selectmen. Whoever that person is, at any point in time, that first selectman can block it to go to the full board. Okay. If you institute a process like Fairfield and others have, it automatically goes to all the members of the Board of Selectmen. It's not selectively, put forward or not. Everybody has a chance to review it. We discuss this in executive session, and then we go forward to a vote. It's just kind of a one step before it ever gets to the charter about the process.
Let's take the opening of the Board of Education that happened right after the election.
Right.
In this case, there could have been anybody that wants to do it.
Yeah.
Get your name in
Yeah.
by XYZ date.
Yeah, fill out this form.
And I think, and because that was an appointment.
Yeah.
And therefore you do that. I think that's
That
great.
appointment was approved by the Board of Ed.
Yeah.
Yes, so that doesn't.
They
go
might
through
have a
this one.
different bylaw about how they do
That
it.
does not go through this one. The
It
board-
would have had they
Yeah.
not met the number of days.
Yeah.
I think an ordinance is, that would cover this process is a very good idea. But I would still like to see in the charter something that lowered the ceiling on maximum party representation. And I think we would be reducing the party political influence on the first selectman, on the other select, because they come under pressure from their parties to try and ensure the maximum possible
Can I push back?
representation.
I mean, you don't have to go to the maximum. So why?
Well, but
They do.
they
They
do.
do?
This is typically what happens, and there's been a tendency, and not all first selectmen have spoken about it in these terms. You're in a tendency to say, well, that's a Republican seat, that's a Democratic seat.
Okay, if that's the case, then.
And
But
I
you said-
think we would be reducing the pressure that the selectmen actually feel from their town committees.
Who sets the ratio?
They're in the general statutes of Connecticut, there
Well,
are,
if the statutes say that.
no, but it's a ceiling. And you can actually have a lower ceiling.
Want to do that?
Yes.
And somebody can say, well, no, that is, the statute supersede.
No, it's the maximum that is permitted under the state statutes. You can have a lower ceiling as Angela
Then it
describes.
is.
Yeah, so right now, for instance, in a 5-member, do we have a 5-member board anywhere?
Yeah, yes, we do, zoning board of appeals.
So wherever you have a 5-member audit, under state statutes, no one body can represent more than 4 people.
Right,
So, so let's say you wanted to say, gosh, let's have a no more than a bare majority. So in that case, it would be no more than 3
Well, then
in
you
one
could-
party.
could put that into
The
the
charter.
charter
Okay,
as just a line in the charter that says,
yeah, for every board that's
For
listed.
further the state,
Gotcha. Yeah.
statute, blah, blah, blah. Town New Canaan further stipulates the following, and
Correct.
whatever language we feel like is good, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then probably, I don't know where it go, we'll find a place for it in the charter.
Well,
And
under
that's
every board that describes how people are either appointed or elected, so a 9-member or 8-member for Board of Finance. It's very specific with 3
So
alternates.
you'd have to put it
You put it in
each
yeah.
section.
Yeah.
No, you couldn't just do a blanket
Do
thing.
it broadly, but if you read each section, it specifically
Yeah.
says how they are
Yeah.
appointed and what it's subject to state statutes and so forth. And it will say the minority.
Well, that would be-
clause.
That would be very useful. Because it would allow a little more.
More space for.
But then, well, now you gotta, let's see, the state statute says. That the state statutes don't assume unaffiliates, it assumes
It's just as no one party.
no one party.
Yeah.
So we would have to, in our thing, say, no
Just
one
as-
party.
Yeah.
Including unaffiliated.
Well, they're not a party.
They're not a party. So
I mean,
How do we include them?
we'll say, no, it's under the state statutes, it's called majority or minority representation. And it's political parties that are said, so no one political party, unaffiliates are not a political party. Can be more than X in a 7-member board, it can be no more than 5. That's Republicans or Democrats. No one party can be more than 5 under general statutes. If we say we want to institute a no one party can be more than the bare majority, bare a minimum. What am I saying? Bare the
Morality.
plurality of 7, so no more than 4 in that case. So instead of
Well,
right
that's
now,
what
it's at
we're-
5.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a situation. where
Simple
You have nine members.
Yeah.
And you want to provide for unaffiliated, so if you said it was no one party can have more than a plurality.
Yeah.
That would mean that they couldn't have on an 9-person board, they couldn't have more than 4, right? So the other 5,
5.
Fine. They
now that's
can,
the majority.
Yeah, you can't, no one party can be 5 out of 9.
So then the other 4 would be divided between,
It's up to 5, so they don't have to fill all 5, but the remaining can be admitted.
but then the other 2 would be. A bit of a scramble between the minority party and the unaffiliated.
well, what one would hope is that with the process of the entire Board of Selectmen interviewing all the candidates, they will make a decision based upon who is the best qualified, irrespective of whether party political affiliation or whether someone is unaffiliated.
It requires some thinking and drafting, but it's probably right.
Well, I wrote down what I think was in the town charters of Westport here. No more than a bare majority of the members of an appointed board or commission shall be members of the same party.
That's fine.
I mean, and then that covers all appointed boards and commissions. You could just have it as a, a section somewhere at the front of the town charter.
Yeah, it's Article 1. So.
Yeah.
But think about, what you'd have to also think about, if we collectively agreed on something like that, we have to maybe grandfather the current
Yes.
situation. We could not look at Parks and Rec, for instance, and say, well, wait a minute, we've exceeded the bare majority. And therefore it has to
The
be
insurance
changed.
council would tell us what language to put in there.
Yeah, for sure.
What form of words need to
Yeah.
go in there that would grandfather it as people come off.
Correct.
Right.
And that's just drafting.
Yeah, but I think that that's a very good point. We don't want anybody to get thrown off
No,
an
no.
appointed board commission.
Yeah.
Because there's been a change in the ground.
I'm sure there's language,
Yeah,
those guys would be able to give us that one, be just fine. So, all right, well, that, if we steer the conversation at the full commission in these directions, I think you could get some meaningful reforms.
I agree.
And then we'd go, with the benefit of everybody in the room, then we'd go around, ask everybody to share their thoughts on a particular theme. And then we'll see what the consensus is.
Yeah.
Forward. Some of these things I'd like to check off our list.
Yeah,
Yes.
the themes could rattle around forever.
I know. So some of the stuff, I think we have some great data, we have some great opinions on all sides. But I think we should, agree on,
yeah. So
some of these.
what are we agreeing that we as group one should do currently? Make a recommendation at some point to the full CRC for them to consider the
So-
idea.
So as you know, for our full commission meetings, we'll have, in this next one, we have members of town council
Yeah.
coming, so. But I usually like to carve out some space beforehand to go over and whatever theme or issue that each of the groups want to bring forward to the full commission, might be one example. You're free to do that at the next meeting or the meeting thereafter.
So, what about us
Well,
doing that?
what's-
as group one?
Well, yeah,
I mean, strike while the iron's hot,
Pick one.
Yeah, let's do it at the next.
Well, let's make
meeting.
sure you've been quiet, so let's make sure.
I'm trying to understand it
Yeah, sure.
as it goes, and to some degree I understand, I think we'd like to see what it is.
so it sounds like, one, we're dropping this question of elected versus appointed. We're saying we're going to stick
No,
with what
excuse
we
me.
have, hold up, this is what I thought I heard. But we wanna make these reforms to the appointment process.
I
Is
don't
that
think
what I heard?
we're dropping. We're just saying, here's something that we like to see to improve the process of getting people involved in boards and commissions and so forth for appointed.
I think
Go ahead.
that we were discussing the paper, okay, and we looked like we were close to an agreement on not producing any papers. I don't know if that's real, but it looked like where we were. I think some suggestion that's been made by our guest is interesting, but I really think a lot of information, a lot of thought and time would have to go into it. I'm not ready to move beyond where we've come as a group. I think this is just an interesting idea. that's been
First
thrown
time.
out.
I think we need to.
Discuss it.
we need to
I'd
start
be
moving.
inclined to say, let's forget the paper, and this discussion needs to be had with the whole.
Yeah.
The one we just had.
It's a first time discussion, we don't have to make a vote on
No.
it, but I think we should,
I think the
You
job
wanna
of
raise it with
group
the
one,
group? Please go ahead and raise it with the group.
yeah, the job of group one is to raise these issues and possible changes to the process.
Anyone can raise any issue with the group, so.
Yeah,
I think if Chris and I are in agreement that we're not gonna do a paper, I think we should seize the moment before we lose it and come back 2 weeks later and want to do something else. So if you make a motion, I'll second it.
Well, I'll put the motion out there that we withdraw further, that we cease further work on the motion, on the paper. Table it permanently.
I second it.
Okay, now, up to a vote. All in favor? Good, okay.
I,
It's a hard one. It's just such a hard one that.
well, I mean, I think it's important to try and reach consensus and something we all agree about, but I kind of wish that someone had told me this before I put the time and effort.
Yeah.
We
There
had
you
that.
go.
No, the time and effort led to this discussion, which was very fruitful.
Yeah.
And which we all agree, there's some good ideas here, but they're beyond the scope of our scope. They belong in, I think, the commission.
Somebody wants to raise that to the commission. I think our scope, we've addressed it. I think that is the right decision.
Okay, so that was the first motion, and then the next motion is that we will present the ideas that we have discussed on lowering the ceiling for maximum party political representation and changing the process by which appointed members are selected to involve the whole of the Board of Selectmen to the full CRC at the next meeting.
I'd be in favor of that as recommendations.
I thought that it was being discussed as what individual is coming from group one, as we're saying, this is what group one recommend.
No, I
This
think
is the
because
first time you've heard it.
you said that you would rather we didn't, so what I'm saying is we just raise them as ideas for
If
discussion.
you wanna raise them as ideas, go right ahead.
In other words, you're gonna have to do it yourself, Angela, and he's not part of
Yeah,
Okay.
it, is what he's done.
that's right. And that still empowers you to raise it, it's gonna sound the same, it's gonna sound the same.
Somebody's gonna have to make the statements and.
Yeah.
As far as the other people are concerned, that's who raised it.
Okay, so that was my motion.
But
Simply that we
I can
raise-
find one.
Okay, so I'm making a motion, who's seconding it? Okay.
What is the motion, is that?
The motion is that we present the ideas that we discussed this afternoon to the full CRC, and those ideas are lowering the ceiling for the maximum representation of a political party on appointed boards and commissions. And number two is that the process by which appointed members are selected would be changed via an ordinance to include the whole of the Board of Select.
And
We can't dictate that though, we can suggest that,
We
we
can
can
recommend
recommend
it.
that.
All I'm saying is that we raise this for discussion at the next full CRC. I'm not saying that group one supports it or not.
And what I'm saying is, you don't need the support of group one to raise it. So it shouldn't be a motion to group one, since we just heard it.
It's come out of the group done.
Yeah.
You can say it came out of our group discussion, that would be factually true. It's not really in our elected versus appointed. Well, if you
Doesn't
want,
address that.
yeah, it's, which is what we were charged to address, so what I'm saying is, if you wanna present that, I would sit there and listen very attentively. I'm just saying is, it's not something that needs to go to a vote of group one. Because it's not a group one issue, we've just
Yeah.
had a spontaneous discussion,
We're thinking,
you know, the idea is 20 minutes old at this point.
so, and I think, I don't have in front of me what sections everybody, I know group two has Board of Finance, and I'm looking at just as an example, and then I'll stop talking and move on to your next item, but Board of Finance and Fire Commission, Article 5, Article 8, and there's plenty of other articles throughout the charter that have the same sentence in each one. And that is, there shall be minority representation on the board and on the panel of alternates, in this case on the Board of Finance, in accordance with state general statutes 9-167A. And so that's consistently applied through all of the appointed boards and commissions. And there will be an appropriate sentence that's added there about maybe adopting something similar to what they just read to us from.
Well, so that would be in each of.
Each one, just, yeah, following.
Probably clearer, that's putting it in the front somewhere. and
I think so.
Well, that doesn't apply.
Well, one one thing that I think would be beneficial is to make the charter easier to pass and to understand. So you don't have to go scrambling about reading the whole thing to understand what it is that, you know, the parking commission.
Okay, well, then
does.
the alternative to that is to strike that sentence from each of the boards. And put a provision in the front of the charter that says this is a general rule of the
You
charter.
can have it double, you can have it in the front.
Well, then there be no doubt.
Yeah,
I would say,
Belt and suspenders.
Yeah. Again, if everyone agrees, so that's the.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't hurt anything. We'd have to go through, make sure we don't miss anything, and that'd probably be fine.
okay, so I think.
But it gets away from your idea of simplicity.
No,
No, well, it's not simplicity, it's actually just making it easier to understand, you know, so you don't have to kind of scramble around and, you know, try and figure out there are other parts of the commission, the charter that deal with a specific body and what it may or may not do.
Good point.
So I think we probably, it's time to move on to another agenda item. Before we do, I just want to say we do have some people who have joined us. We have Penny Young, Maria Weingarten, Andrew Brooks, and somebody on iPhone 83. Would you mind identifying yourself, please?
It's Christina Ross.
Oh, hello, Christina. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's move on then to the next issue. Item 4, Article 1 of the Town Charter, General Provisions. Over to you, Joe.
thank you. I sent to everybody the revised red line version of Article 1. If you have it, good. If not, I have hard copy that I can share.
No, we have.
It's in the public packet,
It's
that's
in the
all.
public packet, okay. I got it, you have it? Good.
Yep.
Then
Go to my
we will
screen.
proceed. This is a result of our meeting last week where we agreed on language, but it hadn't been put in, so this was intended to be a red line version. There's one point when we get to the town seal where I have to explain a couple of things, but basically what I'd like to do is take you through this now and discuss the red lines. So essentially, C1-1 title reads, "This is the charter of the town of New Canaan, Connecticut." Clear, simple, straightforward. We go a little further, we come to the section on the bottom of page 2, publish and publication, and we added in there a few small things as amended from time to time in a local newspaper and including electronic. The idea of the local newspaper was that the text that we had said it needs to be in a publication with substantial circulation. And I pointed out the Wall Street Journal has substantial circulation in this town, but really doesn't cover it from New Canaan. So we put in a local, and then we added in electronic because I think there's a desire to do as much as we can digitally. I think it makes a lot of sense. So that is this cleaning up of that section. When we get to the bottom of the next page, town seal, that has now expanded to be town logo and town seal. And I call your attention to the last 2 pages. You don't have it, but I'll get them out to you. I added 2 pages that came in on town seal and logo.
I think, were these part of this packet? No.
No,
You should be.
they should be, they can be,
Is it January 14th? No.
what
You can keep it and just speak it and I'll look over your shoulder.
I got from the town clerk,
I have.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I got from the town clerk, the town seal. So we do have a seal that is in possession of the town clerk and it says seal. So the whole discussion on 1899 is moved. What we also have is you have the town logo, which as you see is presented here as seal. I'll refer to it as seal too, both of which are kept in the custody of the town clerk. The original idea in when I worked on this article was to put some language into the charter to protect the seal from people using it improperly. And we've had a few issues in town over the years. And I picked up language from some of the other towns that have actually built some language around it. It is not clear to me exactly if the town logo is in fact a second seal or if it is something else outside of the protections of the seal. We have to get, so I've given it what I would call the best protective position by treating the logo and seal together under the custody of the clerk and under the protection of the statute. But at some point, we're gonna have to get a resolution on that.
Well, even if you don't get a resolution, you could just make it the case, right?
Well, I've got
I
a,
have made it the case.
it doesn't bring up the fact that I believe that current practice is that it's the first selectman's office and in specifically Tucker Murphy, who deals with use of the logo. And it's the first selectman's office that is authorizing or not authorizing the use of the logo, not the use of the seal. So we're making it actually more restrictive because we're now requiring the town clerk to say yes or no to the
No.
logo.
If you look at what the town clerk provided, the town clerk called what you're calling the logo seal, and the town clerk wrote in possession or in the custody of the clerk. So what the clerk provided and what you said are in conflict. One will eventually be right. I can't tell you which one.
But I'm saying, I think there might be a practical problem if
Because-
if we put into the charter that the town clerk has to approve the use of a logo.
Because she's saying that
I
the.
understand. I understand. I do. But what I'm saying is, as of now, this is, the clerk is saying that we have two seals. Okay. And the clerk is in custody of the seal.
And one of them is that, I'm sorry, I can't see it.
Oh, please.
Sorry.
Okay. And for demonstration purposes, there's an important point, which is, I just picked out two to show. This is West Hartford and this is Westport, and they each have a logo and a seal. But what they've done is they've actually made their logos a logo. There's no confusion that this is a seal between the two.
Well, I find what you've been given by the town clerk, I assume the town clerk gave you this page.
Exactly that.
But I think it's confusing because it says that the logo is a seal.
I understand. I
And
agree
that's
with
your
your point.
position.
Yeah.
I agree with your point, and I understand the practicality of Tucker Murphy having to
Yeah.
go to get approved. I understand. But we have a situation with with a seal is managed by state statute, and if the logo is under the seal, then that's kind of right. If it's not, then it's more this way. I can't tell you, one of them will eventually be proven right. I don't know which one it is. So I wrote it this way, and if we want to leave it this way, but at some point, I think maybe Nick Vermonti or somebody's gonna have to tell us, is the logo, their logo is different than the seal. There's no confusion on that.
Right.
Our logo looks like a seal when you see it. That's where I think the problem, comes from. Did anybody really know? Because I did not know. I would have sworn that this was our seal.
I thought so too.
I didn't know this existed. Okay, so when I got this, I was really thunderstruck to see it. All I'm saying is I think we have a grip on the situation. We need a resolution as to whether or not the logo gets the protection of the seal or not. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. That's the law. So,
Well, I think that what you're saying is in practice, the first selectman is the custodian of the logo. And the town clerk is the custodian of the town seal.
that is what Angela is saying.
That, I believe that that's the current practice. I don't think Tucker Murphy is on the call today, but I know that this was something she was interested in speaking about.
When we left, we ended our last meeting, I had no idea that a logo existed. I really did. So again, I think we've got a grip on what the options are, we just need a resolution as to whether the logo travels with the seal. And if it does, then it's to the town clerk. If it doesn't, then it's the other way. I'm not advocating for anything, I'm just saying.
But that's
It-
the
it-
logo, not town seal.
So the town seal, you understand what the seal is used for,
Yeah.
right? It's like, it's a legal document.
Yeah, it's like
It's like one of those things there. that notaries use,
Yeah.
right? So this logo is often used, it's on the website, it's on, correspondence, it's on this particular report from 10 years ago, it's used. And so I think Joe's raised an important point, it looks like the town clerk actually holds two seals, or
She says it.
there's
She says she does.
seals.
Yeah.
One of them is what the logo is.
Right.
And the question, and so I know that Tucker is doing more work on that too, to say, who owns this, who owns the logo and who owns the seal? And what if anything, and we're gonna be hearing from Claudia, I think in a couple weeks, 17th, and she can speak to the fact of where did you use this particular seal?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm only
Right,
advocating
great
clarity.
stuff, yeah.
Clarity, that's all.
Yeah.
But what they did in West Hartford
They
and Westport,
separated, yeah.
it's clear.
Yeah.
There's no confusion.
Yeah.
So moving on, we come to the addition of the audit board, which is basically to say that the audit committee is hereby renamed the audit board. But this solves several problems. By having the audit committee, chapter C 2-4 says that members of a committee need not be electors of the town, and so while that's good for TDAC, I think it's bad for the audit committee because you could have somebody from Kansas basically on our audit committee, which wouldn't make any sense. On the other hand, we made an attempt to try and get definitions for committees and commissions. The state does not have them. There are none in other statutes in their lexicons, and so therefore it would be somewhat arbitrary. So the simplest solution we agreed last week is to simply rename the audit committee. We agreed on board, it could be commission, could be council, but I think there's a group.
Is there a group working on the audit committee? That was my question.
It's under the Board of Finance, under Article 5, so we're taking that up tomorrow for 2.
Group 2.
Because the Article 5. It's really the finance article like that,
Right.
and it covers so many things.
Right, we might break on it out separately.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
rename Article 5
Yeah.
to be like
Yeah,
town finances.
well, coming back,
Because it makes it look like all this is
Yeah.
about more finance, and it's like, that's not.
well, coming back to my point that I think the town charter is kind of hard to read and then interpret and understand. I think it would be useful if the audit committee, audit board, whatever it ends up being called, is split out separately.
That's different from what we're talking, we're just talking about the name here.
Yes,
Right, the name. So what happens there is another.
but I guess group 2 may have a point of view about
Yeah.
if they want to rename the audit committee or not.
I'll bring it up tomorrow for 2. I think that's fine.
We added the Constitution of the state of Connecticut. A number of charters have the Constitution, which goes along with the statutes. I would ask the group, I was a little schizophrenic on whether it should be or by or and by. And I eventually settled with or, with the idea that they're additive as opposed to you need to qualify for both. But if anybody wants to change or to and, I'd be willing to.
I think war is right, because and would imply it has to be granted by both.
Right.
Yeah,
So this was, I thought, a very elegant point that a number of statutes had, and the Constitution could conceivably change at some point. It would take an act of the Supreme Court and the voters, but so I think having that in there makes some sense. I will tell you also that when you get to the next section where you see these numbers, which are enumerated the general powers of the town, we don't make any comments on them, but Kathleen gave me the charter from 1935, and these numbers are original language from 1935.
So some things never change.
Something's never changed. There's some interesting stuff in here, but it's there. In C-1-4, we added the word committees just to make it complete, because a number of times when we talk about boards, commissions, and agencies, it mentions committees, sometimes it doesn't. So just to complete the list, I added in committees.
Good catch.
And then we get to the very end, and there's 2 points here. The original point was that this chapter, additional boards and committees, basically says the town council has the authority to establish ordinance and boards and commissions as needed. And it goes through that process. What occurred to me was that it did not explicitly give the town council permission to decommission boards and committees and chapters as they become used up for whatever reason. Otherwise, we would just have a lot of remnant commissions. So the idea was to take that language, reproduce it, and just change it to be the town council would also have the authority to decommission or modify existing boards and commissions.
You know, let's just, I think I agree with that, and I think it's good to have it in the charter. For some reason, I think that that's also an ordinance, just make sure that that language is consistent. Okay, so
This is
we'll look
directly,
that up.
this is directly from the charter. This is actually the charter language.
No, I know, but what you've added about decommissioning,
Oh, okay.
I think that's great. I would definitely support adding that. Let's just make sure it's consistent if there's importance about that as well.
I will check again,
Yeah.
but I think we'll be okay. And then we added one more point. Angela brought up, which I totally agree with, that the Board of Selectmen shall fill the appointed positions. Well, that's pretty much understandable. Basically within 180 days. And the idea here was we had a situation some years ago where an effort was made to starve the Utilities Commission by not appointing anyone to it. And basically our Utilities Commission went out of business after about 2018. And so here, the idea is to give the Board of Selectmen 180 days, which in my opinion is a generous number, to make those selections. And if for whatever reason they don't, then it would move to the town council to have the authority to make the appointment. And we agreed on that last week.
I think I've been thinking about the time, 180 days, because it can take a lot of time to surface candidates to be considered by whether it's the first selectman or the board of selectmen. Once there is a notice that there is a vacancy, but I think 180 days that should give everybody
Sure.
time to find candidates.
It's very reasonable. And in the digital age, I really think.
Yeah.
You 180 days. is very-
Yeah.
very
That's
good.
good.
So that, I will check the one point on decommission, but in effect, we have a red line version now. Of
Right.
Article 1.
And I think that we have the Board of Ed, right?
Yes,
So I think. we
well, that
can-
was the next question.
Yeah, I think we can move forward to a red line of the Board of Ed.
Well, that's what I wanted to, I was going back and forth with Angela earlier in the week and said, should I do this? And we thought we would talk about it, that given that we've had discussions with the Board of Ed and with Dr. Lutzi, should I go ahead and redline a version just like we just did with Article 1 for the Board of Ed?
Yeah, let's take.
And we'll bring that to the next
I
meeting.
don't think we need any more interviews, as a matter of fact, with Board of Ed people.
No.
Well, if they want to talk to them,
Well, they-
obviously listen.
Well, I'm also open, but
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to take a look at bylaws, which
I
we
have
sent them,
Yeah,
we sent them around. To see if there are things in there that we think should also be covered in
these are the Board of Ed bylaws.
yeah,
And make sure that it's consistent with what we're writing.
yeah,
But yes, and the thing there, that you brought up, Chris, was that the term limit for the chair in their bylaws is 1 term, and it needs to rotate, and there are 2 terms, if I remember right.
Right.
And they have made that, and we don't have it in ours, but I don't know why the charter should be so specific, let them roll that out.
right, and then Dr. Lutzi wanted to reference a section of the general statutes. And there was this 30-day appointment of a vacancy on the.
Yes, and that one, that definitely needs to be.
That's another thing of bringing it in line with the state,
State, yeah.
so.
yeah.
Well, I'll come prepared at the next
And
meeting.
I think there's very few changes there.
No, there's very few.
Do you want to bring it to the full commission on next Tuesday? Would you be?
I mean, it wouldn't give it, I can,
Oh, would you want to discuss it? once?
well, yeah, I give this group a chance and then the following week.
I did have a couple of things that I was going to suggest. adding to the town charter from the bylaws, just to make the section on the Board of Ed consistent with what is said across other
Sure.
boards and commissions. You know, some basic organizational principles, and perhaps we discuss that next time.
Yeah, let's do it here and then. If we're jumping to the next meeting, also. One of the groups that I was responsible for is the parking commission. And the parking commission wants to come in on February 11th. I'm so sorry for this song.
It's okay. Don't worry about
I'm
it.
feeling that.
No, it's been going on for a couple.
Would you like my book? Coffee?
No, thanks, I got it. But the Stacy Mittenberg is the parking person here. She can't come on the 11th and she would like to come the next meeting on the 4th to speak, if that's okay.
Wow.
Okay, and then the
full
full,
CRC or the subgroup,
this group
Yeah.
1.
okay, yeah.
And then the full parking commission would come, 3 of the 4 people can come, and the 4th can come on Zoom on the 11th.
Yeah.
And then the one other topic that I had is the issue of the water and sewage boards, and it's a theme-based. And
They'll keep going.
no,
Yeah.
that one, I was just putting off towards the end, but did you have some thoughts on that?
Well, the Water Pollution Control Board
Yes.
is a part of the Board of Finance. And
Yes.
we're gonna be taking that on in group 2, and I had a brief conversation with the chair of the Board of Finance about that topic. I've heard from other Board of Finance members as well. And there's a question as to, certainly the budgeting process and the mill rate to be set on say the sewer rate, et cetera. That there should be maybe some other oversight board, whether it's the Board of Selectmen, utilities.
Well, it seems to make sense to me, and
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out early, that it should be the first selectman.
Yeah.
Should oversee.
Something with almost engineering oversight and
Yes.
expertise as well. I don't know that the Board of Selectmen has.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the town engineer.
Yeah, the problem with the Water Pollution Control Authority is that it originally came into being because it was an extension because of the sewer tax.
Yeah.
And the need for providing money for capital improvements. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the technical parts that now have become more and more important as the town is going through a new phase of development. And that it's not the sweet spot of the Board of Finance. That's so.
Right, which is exactly,
So there's nothing that says that would preclude us from saying with matters of setting the sewer tax and for any capital improvements, you've got to come to the Board of Finance, just like anybody else. to make
Just
the
like
budget.
for the main mill rate.
Yeah, just, you come, well, they have separate taxing for it.
Right, it's still both under the Board of
They
Finance.
sort of got, they need to come to the Board of Finance for that approval. Just like the Board of Ed, which is really very independent body, it still needs to come to the Board of Finance to have its budget approved. And its capital budget approved. So this would be this agency, and this authority, which is already a pretty separate entity. Should be required to, on matters of finance, setting the sewer tax. Getting its capital budget approved. Bonding, all these financial things, those need to be submitted to an approved bond of finance. And then we can ask any questions on the financing aspect of it, without having to worry about, can we extend the sewer 300 meters? Or 300 yards?
Well, Joe will tell you, in the first charter of 1935, there was a sewer commission.
Yes,
All right.
Yeah,
and planning and zoning is actually calling the Plan and Zoning Commission. It's not planning, it's plan.
Yeah.
but anyway, but
the question, does this report through the Public Works Department? Or should it
Well,
go?
no, Public Works Department is the department of the town.
Right,
Those are employees and, drive trucks and do other kinds of stuff for the town. That is, they're not oversight. Whereas the Water Pollution Authority is an oversight, right?
Requires
No,
governance.
that's
Requires.
government, so it doesn't.
So maybe we need to think about
Well,
where that
the-
expertise
Well,
lies.
the
Utilities Commission?
The DPW does not have a commission over, it. It's one of the few departments.
Which is another issue. we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about. Yeah.
That's what,
It doesn't have a commission over,
public works.
everybody else has got some kind of commission over. Now, you can have a commission for public works, water. And I suppose.
Sewage.
The sewage and stuff that would
That
be,
seems to me like a utility.
or agree to form utility, because the
That's the
utilities
Utilities Commission.
Utility commission could do all that, well, maybe not DPW
I think if
per
we look
se,
at the,
because of roads and.
No, but just water and sewage.
Yeah,
That's a public utility.
yeah, it certainly is,
I believe that the sewage was left out of the utilities commission when they recommissioned it. But no reason you can't put it back.
yeah, I don't know why,
I don't think it was ever in.
It was never in.
It was always part of Board of Finance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not-
that was
nobody got
probably
home.
mine.
Yeah,
but. Things have changed, that's the issue, things have changed, and the job of the WPCA. Is much more technical than it had been for a long time.
So maybe that's
It needs to
something
find a
for-
home, I mean, a commission that it reports to, I mean. And this involves talking to the Utilities Commission group, because there is a group that's
No,
overseeing that, right?
you could require,
There's utilities.
you
Yes,
could
we-
require that the utility that.
It's not, the utilities commission's not in charge.
It needs to go to chart.
I beg your pardon?
It needs to go to chart.
It will, yeah, I mean, it wasn't because it was just sort of reestablished 10 years ago. And we wanted to sort of vet it out, see how it was working, because it's been dormant from
yeah,
time to time.
there's a whole political, whole bit.
Yeah.
There's an ordinance about it, and that's what,
But it would be,
Helpful.
it's
It should be, you would
And-
think,
and-
I mean, with-
certainly if you took on something like erosion control, then it should be, definitely.
It used to contain authority over telegraph that they took out, just so you know.
I think that was a reasonable thing to do.
So maybe what group one should be thinking about under this theme that we've been given is a recommendation to the full CRC about where oversight authority for water and sewage should rest. Whether it should stay with the Board of Finance, whether it should be moved to the Utilities Commission or some other solution. So maybe that is what we should be discussing and coming up with some recommendations.
There is,
But then we need to interview the members of the WPCA. Which are the Board of Finance.
That is, yes, that's a
For
very
sure.
good point.
And that's what we're doing, that's,
So it sounds like, this is the problem with the themes versus the
article.
the articles. The article people really run with it, the theme people are kind of lost. This was not the best.
This is the WPCA?
Yeah,
Yes.
water.
Water pollution.
Yeah. They overlap and.
You work as a team, we're collaborative.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were some ideas, but the engine is definitely with the article group. As
It could
opposed to
be,
the
it could be, yeah.
in all of these discussions.
Yeah.
the Utilities Commission has the capacity to take on more.
Well, it could be made to have the capacity. to do it.
yeah,
Well, they're staffed for 9 people.
Yeah, and you could put people on there, you could put the head of the DPW, you could put the town engineer, you could put.
Ex officio, you mean,
well, I'm prepared to have this
Automatic
discussion.
numbers.
Yeah,
of employees.
I mean, and this could go on, I could try to do this next
Never
week.
have a meeting, WPCA, Tiger's not there, and Maria's not there. So.
well, maybe also touch base with the group that's looking at Board of Finance to make sure that they're not dealing with this too, because it would be a shame if, there are,
Hasn't begun, so.
Okay.
If you can
Okay,
yeah.
join us tomorrow at 8:30.
tomorrow at 8:30,
In the morning.
Uh-huh.
8:30 in the morning,
If you can hear, no problem.
Eastern time?
We're actually, tomorrow is gonna be focused on the audit committee under Article 5, so
Okay,
we can put that off on the, to another time,
okay, yeah, I can't do it at 8:30.
no problem.
Okay.
Okay, so, right. Well, we've done item 5, follow-up discussion of interviews with Dr. Lutzi and Board of Education. Unless anybody wants to say anything further on that. We started talking about future group 1 interviews and agendas. Let's just go over February the 4th and what we think we're going to do at that meeting. Steve said he would
Well, hopefully we can wrap up Article 1 by then.
Yeah.
I've heard from.
What is outstanding on,
Well, you're.
Nothing is outstanding. I think Article 1 is going to the full commission next week.
I thought we agreed we were gonna leave it.
Oh, okay, we're agreed to that.
I didn't think so, but I mean,
I thought it was gonna go to.
The only way I can resolve that is to request that Nick Bramante make a rule.
well, I think it might be cleaner, the whole full CRC, get the answer to that question before we provide our red line.
On the logo on the
Yeah.
slide?
Yeah.
We'll get that done.
Yeah,
By Tuesday.
yeah,
Can we make the request to Nick?
okay. So we won't need to do Article 1
No, I think we're on Article 1.
next Wednesday.
We're gonna do Article.
We're gonna do Board of Ed
Board.
redlined,
Yeah, and
redlined
we're gonna interview Stacy Miltenberg
interview, yep.
for the parking
And
commission.
maybe we should do that at the beginning so we don't keep them waiting. And we're going to, would you have time before next Wednesday to put something together on, oversight of water and sewer?
I'll try.
Thank you.
Chris, do you mind working with me on this?
No. But I mean,
You have a
I
lot of background.
know,
Yeah.
I just couldn't chair that.
No.
Because I'm the secretary of.
Yeah.
The Board of Pollution Authority.
I mean, I know you felt.
And everybody said, don't do that, don't do that, right? If you're a member of that board, use yourself, but I'm not that.
Yeah, if you just,
For knowledge.
is this a problem if I set up a call with Chris or, of what this should
Just
be?
informational.
Yes.
Getting ready, prepping for the meeting.
Okay, so that's fine.
And you're an affiliate of Democrats, so
There's no town meeting. on it.
no meeting.
If you stay till 6:30, you can ask that question of the FOIA. That's great.
Okay, so and then we did also agree then that at the next CRC meeting, we'll present the ideas about lowering the ceiling on party political representation, but
Do you want to
maximum.
discuss that further here? Do you want to get that language tight and then bring it? Up to you.
Well, we can't really do that, can we, but offline or via email, no,
No, I meant.
You have to go for the 4th
yeah,
and then bring it back up
yeah, let's do that then.
on the 15th.
Let's put that on the agenda for the 4th,
Yeah.
I'll come on
And then bring it to the 17th. The 17th I want for the full commission. We're not inviting any guests, so I think we do actually have a town clerk. Hopefully it won't be that long, but I want to use most of that time for kind of getting into the different articles and checking off the ones that we can get through quickly and others that require more substance and discussion.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
note that as well.
All right.
Okay, anything else that anybody wants to say? I don't think we've on the agenda. Okay, does anybody want to move adjournment?
So.
Second.
Okay, in favor, aye,
All right.
good,
Good discussion.
and I will do some draft minutes. And I can put them together.
Will be better than mine.
No,
So Steve, all you have to do is make those edits and then submit it up to
Sal.
draft, yeah. No, actually, those have been finalized because you voted on that, yeah. Okay.
okay, and I can do a
Actually,
notice
instead of
agenda.
Sal, can you make it to the IT help desk? Sal has asked that,
Everything goes
not to
there.
the private one.
Yeah.
Can I pose the letter to Nick directly or should I do
Do for me,
Yeah.
it'd be so fun.
That's fine.
Good. Okay, well, 6:02, that's pretty good. And
Well read.
Time
We
for,
have lots
time
of
for
fun.
dinner,
Yeah.
and then 6, I don't know, does anybody else attend?
Yeah.
Are you going?
I almost feel like I should not be in the room,
Why?
just it's this
Oh.
stuff, no?
Oh, but if you don't feel well, you should.
No, I'm
be.
fine.
Of course.
What did I ask? I didn't know.
You can zoom in.
I'm not,
And then.
It's on there. It's on
so I'm gonna go zoom in.
It's recorded, some of these things are best, let's say, really specific questions.
Okay, so stop the recording, I just hit end.
We're in
Yes.
conference room.
And meeting.